You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, episode 556, Riddles.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Nick Fenley, sitting in for Norman Lau. Each week on Mission Log, we point our photolytic converter at an episode of Star Trek, illuminating any of the cloaked morals, meanings, and messages, and asking ourselves if it stands the test of time.
This week, Riddles, the one where Tuvok forgets who he is and learns how to make desserts far better than anything Neelix ever did. Welcome to Mission Log, Nick. A pleasure to have you here in the co-host chair.
Thank you so much for having me.
I tell you what, for our audience who may not be familiar with your work over at Trek Central, if you could let folks know what you do and where to find you.
I mainly stream on twitch.tv/PIECEXPIECE. Most of my handles are the same, so...
That's very convenient with everybody changing platforms these days, just to have kind of a brand. That's very helpful. And if they were to find you at Trek Central, of course, there's a lot of people and a lot of activity at Trek Central. I know that I peruse their YouTube channel, so you can find a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah, it's a bit harder to find specific things on the channel, but I am there.
Yes, indeed. Well, pleasure to have you joining me today for our episode. And if you would please tell folks where to find us.
We'd love to hear from you. Mission Log is a conversation about Star Trek. Find us on Facebook at Mission Log Pod and Threads at Roddenberry Podcasts. The conversation always continues in the Mission Log Discord with near-daily live events and 24/7 chat about the topics you love. Get your invitation to our private server by joining patreon.com/missionlog. And while you're at it, one of the most important ways to help the podcast you love is to leave a 5-star rating and review at Apple or your favorite podcast platform. Always remember, your comments could be used on the show. And now here's John with this week's trivia.
All right, let's talk about Riddles. We have a story by Andre Bormanis. Now, we certainly know about Andre's contributions as a science advisor for Star Trek during this period, but he was also a story editor and contributed a few stories of his own. We're right in the middle of his story credits on Voyager, the most recent of which we discussed was Demon. We have a teleplay by Robert Doherty. Now, we've only covered 2 of Robert's credited Voyager contributions so far. Those would be Vis-a-Vis in Season 4 and Bliss in Season 5. But Robert has been around Voyager as an assistant to the producers, then as the youngest staff writer at the time. He'll stick around for a lot more Voyager, and we will see his name in the credits right up to the very end. This episode was directed by Roxanne Dawson. It's always nice to see another success story from the Star Trek directing school. Now, some actors only sit in the big chair a few times, but Roxanne got her start with this episode, and then one more on Voyager, and then her directing career exploded. Now, yes, she's back for 10 episodes directing Enterprise, but look beyond Trek, and you will find Roxanne directing just about everywhere. You'll catch her work from, HBO's The Deuce to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Bosch, Bates Motel, The Mentalist. In fact, that list keeps getting longer and has far surpassed Roxanne's acting credits since 2011. Let's meet our guest stars. Well, we just have one to note, and that is Investigator Narak, played by Mark Moses. Mark grew up near Chicago, but he moved to New York and found his way onto the stage. An early Broadway success for him was appearing alongside Sean Penn and Kevin Bacon in Slab Boys. And soon after, he got his first feature film role in Platoon, and he has not stopped bouncing between more film and TV guest roles ever since. Oliver Stone even put him to work again in The Doors. And if you followed Mad Men with the intensity that I did, you may remember him early on as Duck Phillips. He's been recurring on a long list of other shows, but spent the longest time on Desperate Housewives. And Star Trek isn't done with him just yet. We will see Mark in his human form when we roll around to Enterprise.
Welcome to the Delta Quadrant. Always remember the old mission log rule. If a Vulcan smiles, start running now. Well, maybe not this time.
Prologue. It's our old favorite buddy comedy with Neelix and Tuvok and the Delta Flyer together on their way back from a mission. Neelix has been negotiating on the Kasat homeworld, and Tuvok has been surly. Neelix tries to lighten up the mood on the trip to Voyager with a riddle. One about an ensign stranded on a Class L planet with a calendar but no food. When he's finally rescued, he's full from all the dates. Get it? Dates? Because it's a calendar? Yeah, Tuvok is not amused either. The Vulcan excuses himself to do some very important science in the back room, but he finds that something is accessing the ship's computer. With his tricorder, Tuvok detects a cloaking frequency. Just as he alerts Neelix, something decloaks long enough to fire a weapon at Tuvok, knocking him to the ground, dazed and shaking uncontrollably. Act 1. Back aboard Voyager, Tuvok is in sickbay, comatose but stable. Captain Janeway reassures Neelix, who's guilt-ridden over not investigating the alien further, that saving Tuvok was the priority. Enter Narok, a Kasat investigator with a theory. The Beneth, the Shadow People, a secretive and xenophobic species, are likely behind the attack. While most consider them a myth, Narok has been chasing their trail and believes Voyager's technology combined with his own might expose them. Janeway agrees, allowing him to scan Tuvok, the only known survivor of a Beneth attack. Meanwhile, with the doctor's encouragement, Neelix goes to work to aid Tuvok's recovery. He gathers Tuvok's belongings, plays Vulcan music, burns incense, and even proposes reenacting a long Vulcan drama, Clash on the Fire Plains. The setting is a little chaotic for sickbay, prompting the doctor to intervene. But suddenly, Tuvok regains consciousness and sits up from the bed, quiet, confused, a bit frightened. He cowers from a tricorder scan until Neelix reassures him it's safe. With Neelix's gentle assurance, the doctor takes over the scan, and he quietly whispers, "Well done." Act 2. Narok and 7 of 9 discover residual Viridium isotopes, essentially the cloaking particles on the Delta Flyer left behind by Tuvok's attacker. With Janeway present, they tech the tech to generate an image of the Beneth. Janeway proposes adapting the technology to Voyager's deflectors in order to locate the alien ships and ultimately finding their cloaking frequency to reveal them at long range. In sickbay, the doctor explains to Janeway that Tuvok's brain is essentially rewiring itself very quickly. His sensory perception is back, but his memory is gone, along with his ability to speak. Neelix takes him on a tour to jog his memory, but Tuvok is confused and unresponsive, barely recognizing the bridge or his quarters. Back on the bridge, Janeway tests 7 and Narok's sensor upgrades, revealing multiple Cloak Beneth ships nearby. But before Voyager can lock onto their frequencies, the ships attack, shaking Voyager violently and terrifying Tuvok in his quarters. The Beneth retreat beyond sensor range, but a still frightened Tuvok clings to a chair in his quarters. Then he begins to speak, saying that he knows he is safe with Neelix. Act 3. Janeway and Narok both know the importance of getting any information at all out of Tuvok. They ask him questions, and he vaguely remembers using the tricorder and the Delta Flyer, but he simply doesn't know any detail, much less the cloaking frequency of the Beneth. It's asking a lot of him, and Janeway dismisses Tuvok, inviting him to lunch later. He declines, though, choosing to stay with Neelix. To help Tuvok recover further, Neelix reintroduces him to his favorite game, Calto. But when Tuvok struggles and loses in a match with Harry, he angrily declares that he doesn't like it anymore. In sickbay, Tuvok sees his personnel file and grows upset over the life he can't remember. His frustration boils over into a violent outburst, forcing the doctor to send Neelix away. Act 4. Late at night, Neelix finds 7 in the mess hall, pondering a riddle of her own. How do you find something that's invisible? They can't find the Beneth without already knowing where they are. That's where Tuvok's help would come in handy. And that leads Neelix to a riddle of his own. When is a Vulcan no longer a Vulcan? Seven suggested instead of mourning the old Tuvok, Neelix should embrace who Tuvok has become and what he could become, much like Seven's own journey away from the Borg. Inspired, Neelix returns to Tuvok in sickbay. The two share a heartfelt conversation, with Tuvok apologizing for his earlier outburst and giving Neelix a wax flower. Tuvok struggles to understand why they weren't close before, and Neelix jokes about the old Tuvok's serious demeanor. For the first time, they laugh together. Tuvok wants to embrace who he is now, learning more about fun and less about logic, which leads us to the mess hall, where Tuvok proudly unveils his newfound passion, desserts. While sampling his culinary creations, Janeway again pushes him to recall the cloaking frequency. He insists that he doesn't remember, but Tuvok unwittingly decorates a cake with the exact pattern of the frequency. The breakthrough leads Voyager to a massive cloaked Beneth station. Act 5. With the cloaking frequency in hand, Janeway negotiates with Beneth. She offers Voyager's tactical data on past encounters in exchange for the weapon specs needed to cure Tuvok. When the Beneth refuse, Narak offers his own tech, which revealed them in the first place, sealing the deal. Armed with the data, the Doctor can restore Tuvok's mind, but when Neelix shares the news, Tuvok is crestfallen. He doesn't want to go through with the procedure because he's finally enjoying his life. This life. Neelix gently reminds him that the crew needs him in his role, even if Neelix will miss the new Tuvok. The two return to sickbay together. Post-treatment, Tuvok returns to his logical self. In the mess hall, Neelix asks if he'd like some champagne or possibly to help make dessert for his celebratory dinner, but Tuvok is uninterested and declines. Just as Neelix starts to leave, Tuvok offers a new answer to the riddle. The stranded ensign on a Class L planet could survive by eating the Sundays on the calendar. Amused, Neelix notes it's clever but illogical. Tuvok, with eyebrow raised, says, "No, it's not." The end. All right, Nick, we made it. We made it through the recap. Yes.
Well,
I did. You know, it's a thing. After 12 plus years, it just kind of flows. Not actually. It's a lot of work. All right. Well, let's take a look at what happens here. And I got to say, you know, it's nice to see a return of a Neelix and Tuvok team up. The more I watch of Voyager, I keep thinking, well, wait, we haven't seen enough of these two characters together. Or like 7 of 9 and Tuvok have a lot of similarity. I want more of them together. And, it's just, I feel it's so refreshing when the writers decide, oh, wait, we haven't explored that enough. Let's do that again, you know?
Yeah, I feel like you get that a lot throughout the different shows anyway, like especially with like Odo and Quark. You love to see the two opposites interacting together.
Yeah. And they really play that, I think, to its best in DS9 for sure.
Yeah.
You know, like they don't always forget that we have these great combinations, you know. And I really like the Doctor here because there's always a risk of just playing the Doctor as one note, like he's this kind of snooty and dismissive and superior, but when he has a moment, when he has a turn and actually kind of agrees with Neelix, like, yeah, you know what?
He softens up a bit whenever he sees like how much he actually cares about what's happening to Tuvok. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll let you handle it. Right.
And you even see his body change a little bit. Like, yeah, you know what, Neelix, you should do this. You know?
You got this.
Yeah. And I love all the stuff. I love all the Vulcan stuff, like the music and all the props that he brings in. I kind of I enjoy it when Star Trek will create alien music, sometimes better than others, sometimes not great.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, we do see a lot of like the Klingon opera, so it's nice to see like, oh, we get to hear some Vulcan music now. Granted, it's like chanting, but
sure. Which just it makes sense. Like thematically, just for them, it works. And I know that throughout this episode, I'm going to be beating a similar drum many times, and a lot of that will go back to Tim Russ's performance here because it's not just I feel like he's got it all. It's the emotional context, but then his physicality changes in a really interesting way. Tuvok normally is so stiff, and it's
very proper. His posture is always very on point.
Yeah, and if you notice, like, he doesn't always make eye contact with when he's Tuvok, when he's
I guess so.
Yeah, like he'll do something if he's giving a directive or giving an answer to something, but when he's just looking at a tricorder and he's sort of
he's just focused.
If he's interrupted by Neelix, like he's not even going to give him the time of day to look him in the eye, right? but this Tuvok, who is vulnerable and sweet, he's so expressive with his eyes and just kind of always looking to make a connection, you know?
Yeah, I didn't quite notice that. So.
See,
that makes sense.
He's so good, yeah. Thought we got interesting CG effects as we keep doing the decloaking of the Beneth.
Oh, that was really cool.
Did you?
Yeah, seeing the alien just
I thought that was good. That's one of those where I went back and I freeze framed a couple of times because who is it that says like, oh, they got tentacles, and like, that they do? I can't really get a lot of detail here, you know. But it made me want to see more. It made me want to get an idea of what they actually look like, you know. I liked the Doctor's little nod to Sir Winston Churchill. He says, a puzzle wrapped inside an enigma housed in a cranium. We're talking about...
I didn't even know that was him.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Knowledge.
Yeah, Churchill described, I guess, what was happening behind the Iron Curtain as a puzzle wrapped inside an enigma housed in a mystery or something like that. He gave it this.
Okay.
So I thought the Doctor, of course, you know, with all the knowledge in the world in his virtual head, of course, he would come up with something like that. And another good CG effect. Like, we got to see the Beneth creature, sort of, but when we see the ships, like, I thought
his outline. The ships.
That was dramatic.
Cool.
I mean, that was kind of cool to be like, oh, there's a ship. Oh, no. There's a lot of ships.
There's a whole fleet out there.
Is. Like, it raised the stakes a bit. Yeah.
It was almost as cool as, like, you know, the first time you see, like, a Romulan ship decloaking in TNG or something. It's like, oh,
there we
we're
go.
kind of in trouble.
Now it's serious. Yeah, now we're taking things seriously.
Well, when did he say, if anyone can provoke Tuvok, it's you?
Oh, that was, I think that was Act 2.
I thought that was a nice line.
That was so good. That was so good. Yeah.
Kind of a jab at him, but like...
If anybody is good at a backhanded compliment, it's the doctor. Yeah. there's never any double entendre. You know immediately what he means. You know.
And it's drenched in sarcasm.
Yes. He's a master. Nick, have you ever played Calto?
Oh, God, no. I just got, actually, the 4D chess.
Oh.
I have it. I haven't opened it yet.
Okay.
I'm a little intimidated.
No, wait a minute. Are you an actual chess player? Oh. No. All right. Because I don't play chess either. And when I see that multi-level split board, I'm like, okay, I can't even do this in 2 dimensions. There is no way I'd be able to add more dimensions to that. So...
But, you know, it's a nice talking piece for the collection.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
it's
it.
pretty. It's a good-looking prop, and good luck. Get back to me if you make any progress with learning it. I love a prop like this because I love the complexity of Calto, that they explain it, and you go like, oh, yeah, you just make a sphere out of these things. But the game morphs, like it actually moves after you drop in a piece. And I love how it's kind of representative of, like, it's so complicated that only Vulcans who are really good at this can actually master it.
Of course, they would only know it.
Yeah.
I did think it was pretty interesting. Like, as soon as he sees it as, like, this abstract game in front of him, he's like, no, I like it the way it is. And I felt like that was kind of a representation of, like, him kind of accepting, like, no, I'm okay with who I am now. I don't really want to mess with it.
Interesting. Yeah, and his mind at that time is more accepting of something that is a little chaotic, a little abstract.
Yeah.
As opposed to something that is rigidly like binary. Like it
The perfect.
yeah,
scene.
yeah. Like it is either
Yeah.
complete or it is nothing. You know?
Yeah.
See? See.
And they just kept trying to like convince him, like, no, if you just practice, you could be better at this. And he's like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And just another great moment. There are so many moments for Tuvok in this, and these mini arcs of him going from a complete state of vulnerability to learning to getting a little bit better, and then this devastation when he reads his personnel file, and just to see that change, to see that frustration. He plays it masterfully. He plays it so well.
He does. He really gives off that he's in so much despair,
Yeah.
going over like everything that he knows he's lost, his family, his children, but he doesn't quite know how to accept that his logic is gone.
Yeah. And just to see, like, the idea of here is this person that you have a connection to because it is you, but you don't even understand, like, I don't know who these people are, my family, my career, I think we'll put a pin in that and probably get back to that in the next segment when we talk about kind of the heavier stuff, because I was thinking about, real life examples when that kind of thing happens, and it's devastating, Speaking of odd team-ups, we have this scene with Seven of Nine and Neelix in the mess hall. And I love this scene. It's dark. There's silence.
It's very mysterious. Yeah.
And did you notice, like, there's no music, there's no sound
There's
effects.
nothing. No sound.
Just these two people talking. And every now and then, Voyager will do this. Every now and then, other Star Trek will do this too, where you just, like, get two actors in a room, strip away all the other stuff, and just let them talk. And
you make it about the conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like more episodes now just really need to go back to that.
Yeah.
I would love to just focus on more conversation, because the scene was really well done.
do you feel like, and obviously we dare not jump the timeline, but do you feel like even when that is attempted now, we're recording this late 2024, who knows when our audience will be listening to this, modern Trek as of now, like every now and then I feel like they want to do that, but then they kind of get cold feet, and it's like, no, we have to keep heightening the look and feel and keep the cameras moving and keep the effects going.
It's all action.
Yeah.
It's just go, 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 go. And I'm like, no, can we stop? And like, that's kind of not to deviate again. That's kind of the problem I do have with newer Treks.
Yeah.
I want to stay focused on like getting to know the characters. And I think this scene kind of like helps come back to that. We want to see the characters interacting together and not just like all the action in between.
It says
we
so
get to know
much in this like short time where you really get to the heart of Seven's journey. You really get to the heart of what Neelix is feeling. That's great, efficient writing. It's great, efficient directing. Here's Roxanne, first time directing, who just knows, like, stand back, let the actors work, and my job is done. Let
it happen. It's fine.
Yeah. And Seven has this really kind of profound thing that she shares with Neelix in that when she references Janeway and says, her success was in not by restoring to me to what I had been, but by helping me discover what I could become.
That felt like a really nice line. That's probably one of my favorites watching it this time.
Well, and it says a lot about Seven's journey, I think, because she was so resistant at first to what Janeway was imposing on her. And I feel like you and I could do a whole other show about the ethics of that, whether that was right or wrong,
Sure.
But the point is, this Seven sees a bit of perspective on that. Then, wow, all these other kind of heavy character moments, we go right to Neelix talking to Tuvok and really laying down some truths. Like, here's how you were almost insufferable, but that's punctured with this lovely moment of Tuvok saying, I like to smile. I just,
Yeah. You can tell he's like really enjoying his new friendship that he finally gets to explore without like this deep Vulcan, like, I don't know, just stoicism.
Yeah.
He gets to just be with Neelix.
It's really heartwarming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, normally on Mission Log, I have to point out all the food, and I love that we spend some time in the mess hall, and I love that there are multiple created sci-fi desserts. However, coulis is pronounced coulis, not coulis. What, am I being too pedantic? Is that it?
No, I caught that too, and I was like, oh, no. Well, yeah, Great British Bake Off.
Of course. and look, I realize that Britain and America are two cultures divided by a common language, but I feel like even the Brits would not say coulis. So,
no.
Yeah, all right. We all agree on that.
Was it an error, or is that just showing that Neelix is obviously not human?
Oh, you know what? Okay, that's a good point, because I do have friends who, and I'm sure that you do too, you read a lot, you see words over and over again, but until you actually hear them said in the world, you actually don't know how they're pronounced.
Might be saying
you might
it
be
wrong.
just saying it wrong in your head. So
We give him the benefit, I guess.
Neelix, we need to...
It's still wrong, though.
You got a computer there to tell you how to pronounce things. So I know that I do that. Like, I'll see a word and then I immediately go to Google and I'm like, pronunciation guide on this. And I inevitably get it wrong still when I try to incorporate it into my own...
Yeah, someone will always just...
Yeah. No problem. Love the frequency on the cake, how it's just sort of offhand, like you don't really see what he's doing, and it's just here's this pattern. I thought that was...
Here's the solution that you've been looking for.
Right.
Served up on a platter.
Literally. And then, again, going to a great effect of seeing that space station, that outpost kind of revealed in its cloaked.
Man, that was intense.
It's good stuff. I feel like when they push themselves to do something cool with the effects, they really land it. Was there any moment that you did not trust Narok in this episode?
I don't think so. He just kind of felt like... I mean, we heard him say that his government didn't really believe him, and like they just kind of write him off.
Yeah.
He feels like more like comical than serious. And no, I don't think I ever distrusted him.
Okay, because he's helpful throughout. And then at this,
he is,
But this last moment, he is so ready to just like, hey, Beneth, I'll give you whatever you want. I'll sell out my people.
Odd.
I was like, okay, well, I guess we're in Act 5. We got to wrap this up, so might as well.
But even I was a bit surprised when Janeway was immediately like, if you don't give us what we need, I can just transport your location.
Yeah.
Why would they not just immediately shoot the ship and destroy them? They wouldn't have had any time for Janeway to get the information out.
It seems like Voyager is definitely outgunned. So, it would not be...
So why the threat?
Would not be difficult at all. So...
Bit strange. Oh, so Neelix brings Tuvok back into his room to, like, give him the tour of the ship and whatever, and right before the Beneth attack, we hear Neelix say, Tom used to refer to your room as the Vulcan Vault. And I thought that was kind of interesting that even after 6 seasons of Tuvok being with the crew, he still kind of keeps everyone at arm's length.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that Neelix is, like, just... really taking him under his wing to like get closer to him while he has the chance, because obviously he's the Vulcan Vault. No one really knows much more about him. That's
a good point. Yeah, he does absolutely do that. And by the way, just to piggyback on that, I'm thinking about that scene. It comes right after the bridge tour, and the moments in that, I keep repeating this about Tim's performance, not just the emotional performance, but the physical performance. You watch him in that when they come onto the bridge, he's almost like a child. He's almost like a toddler who doesn't quite know how to walk straight yet, and kind of
he's very stiff.
But he's
finding his limbs.
Yeah, and he's sticking his hands out, kind of bumping into things, and it's really. It's really sweet and really childlike, but it's also this vulnerable thing that you... And I love the sweetness of the people around him, like Harry. Hey, let me help you. Let me show you this and this and this. And they're all like on his side, They
all do look quite concerned, though. Like, oh God, what's the?
Yeah.
How are we going to fix this?
Don't launch the torpedoes. Just whatever you do. Yeah.
Don't do that.
So we heard Vulcan music early on, and then we hear some jazz, and I love that Tuvok says he got it from Tom's record collection. Because it actually sounded like real jazz. Like, it's always disappointing to me on a TV show where you have to get license for real music. And then they don't go to that trouble, so you get some terrible manufactured, like, license-free stuff. This actually sounded pretty good. So
yeah, he was jamming. He was enjoying it.
He was. And I love jazz-loving Tuvok. Like, I wanted more of that. Yeah. And I like his enthusiasm. Like, he wants to go on a holo trip to a water park. Like, I want to see that too.
Of all the places to go.
Yes.
The water park.
Yes. I want that. And then I was just really struck by the unease watching Tuvok submit himself, like surrender himself to this procedure. Like, his nervousness and like, nobody's lying to him about this, but they're trying to talk him into it, saying, like, no. I don't
know if I'd say Neelix was trying to talk him into it. I think he was really just laying out the points of, like, you have lost a lot, but that doesn't mean that you should stay this way if there is a way to fix it. I mean, they didn't really give him an ultimatum like they did in 2 weeks when it was just Janeway saying, like, no, this is getting done.
Pin that, because we're coming back to that. Sure. Great moment when they get him into sickbay, and I love this spiraling camera shot over him laying in the bed again, kind of
into the bed,
like adding to the unease. And there's our director of photography, Marvin Rush, just flexing, just like, hey, Roxanne, I'm going to make your show look great by doing this shot. And I wondered, does this Tuvok remember everything that happened to the Tuvok who kind of emerged when he lost his memory?
I mean, you have to wonder, right? Because they kind of give you the small clue with, like, the second answer to the riddle, because Neelix is trying so hard to, like, cling back to, like, oh, do we still have some kind of friendship left? And he's like, actually, Sundays. And Neelix is like, oh. And then it just kind of ends. You're like, well, does he remember? I don't know.
That's our slap on the back, roll credits moment.
And we never talk about it again.
It's a good thing Tuvok snapped back to normal at the end of the episode. As wonderful as Tuvok is, he'll never be a better Riddler than Frank Gorshin.
So, Nick, there were a couple of points in the last segment where we said, like, oh, yeah, got to come back to that. You know, I think very blatantly, whether it was crafted this way or not, but as fans, as people watching the show, we can't help but think about Tuvix when we watch this.
Sure. Yeah.
And there is that scene in Tuvix where Janeway makes a decision. I think worse than the decision is watching everybody on the bridge just
they're not going against it. Like, they don't want to be in the way. And they're just like, I guess we'll just let you handle
That's harder to watch than just Janeway deciding what to do, I think, you know.
This
episode. No. Watching the people on the bridge and Tuvix just stunned and not able to engage, right? Nobody stands up and says, hey, don't kill this guy.
I have a problem with this.
Right? Yeah.
I guess just the Doctor did. He was like, I'm not going to take part in this.
Yeah.
You can just have at it.
Yeah, right.
Everyone else was just silent.
Yeah. And then still do it anyway. Well, can't totally relitigate that episode.
No.
But there is a parallel here, and there is something interesting about a similar type of conundrum. We have a crew member who has been changed. And that crew member likes the change. He likes who he has become. Now, I think you can make an argument and say, well, it's not Tuvok liking what he has become. It is this new personality who likes who he is. So we don't have the logical Tuvok to make a judgment and say, yes, this is better than this other thing. Because logical Tuvok would probably just say, no, you have to return to the previous state.
But if you think about it, so we watched him in this episode just go from like mute, childlike, up into what, like late teenager, maybe, like having fun. If we let him continue down that path, would he not ultimately choose later on to just go back to how he used to be? So I don't know. Is it an early decision, or would he eventually come to that himself?
That's an interesting idea because, okay, Tuvok is older than he looks. In fact, in the last episode, they're making a point about him, like it's Tom and I believe Harry on the bridge saying like, how old are you? 137, 120, 100, you know. So he's older. So he's lived this huge life, and he's been in and out of Starfleet and kind of came back to it later in life for the second time. Has a family, has kids, you know. So if we go with that idea that he chooses to stay as this new, refreshed, emotional, fun-loving Tuvok, and maybe he learns a thing or two about Vulcan logic. Maybe he embraces dessert making, whatever it is, right?
He becomes a pastry chef, sure.
But what if he gets to a point where he thinks like, okay, all of these are positive changes, and I also like Vulcan logic, and I also like being a tactical officer on a starship, but I'm not feeling that connected to my family anymore because I don't really know those people. Like, the decision has impact beyond just who he is right now on Voyager.
Sure.
You know?
But I mean, if you also take into account they're nowhere near their families still.
True.
So who knows when they'll be back.
True.
So he could still just have fun.
Yeah. As far as they know,
the
it could be another 30 years or whatever before they get back. Yeah, that's a good point. At which point in 30 years, Tuvok still be looking pretty good because he's a Vulcan. So,
exactly.
You know. Yeah, so do you think... I know you said in the last segment that you felt like it wasn't coercion for him to get back to who he was, but he's still uneasy, you know?
Yeah. I didn't feel like it was so much coercion as just like a reminder of like, you have a kind of a responsibility. Do you want to take that back on? Just kind of like almost his conscience kind of nudging him in the right direction. And ultimately he did agree.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I think it was coercion.
Well, so it's that I think they try to play it the way that Neelix phrases it, the way that the Doctor phrases it. To me, they try to play it as if, you have to go to the Doctor for some sort of routine thing. And it's a little scary, it's a little intimidating, but ultimately, like, you have to do it. So you're going to do it anyway. That's one thing. Like that's you in your right mind going like, I don't love going to the doctor. I don't love the idea of anesthesia or whatever the case may be, but I need to do it anyway. This is the case where like you go in as one person, you come out as another person.
But if he's still in the state of like a childlike mind, would he even realize the consequence of what he's doing, which is maybe why it feels like it's more of a kind of a softer like, hey, you should really do this because you don't know what the choice really means. Oh, well,
okay, isn't that ethically dubious then if he has
the
mind of a child? It's like, can we trust? All right, we can't purely leave the decision to him if he has the mind of a child.
Yeah, I guess.
But, oh, man, this just gets more and more complicated. Yeah. But I also looked at this in a different way, too, which was, okay, we can look at Tuvok as a child because his memory is wiped. He's starting from scratch. So we can see Tuvok as the childlike version that he is here. But there's another way that I looked at it here, which is I looked at part of this process. Have you ever dealt with like an aging relative or friend who loses their memory and has difficulty with cognitive? It's so hard. And you kind of at least in my experience, you go back and forth with these feelings of frustration and compassion and this overwhelming emotion that you really can't ever fix the problem. You just have to be there and help and be present and be reassuring and show them love somehow. And I really see that in Neelix's story here.
Yeah, he pulled that off really well. He was just... You didn't even see much signs of frustration, even when when Tuvok had his big, like, explosion, like, no, I have no logic, get out of here, like, blah, blah, blah. And Neelix was still just so worried about him. I'm like, it's really heartbreaking.
It's like, he needs to leave for him. The doctor is right to say, hey, we'll diffuse the situation by sending you away, But then he comes back with this, again, just this open heart. And like wanting to connect with him. And I remember last year dealing with my dad that I had to keep telling myself, like moment after moment, like if he doesn't remember something, it's okay to just tell him the same thing again and reassure him that it's okay, that you don't remember a thing. But then at the same time, like there is this fear and sadness on my part when the things that weren't remembered were really profound. And I also remember catching myself just like snapping one time. And
sometimes we forget ourselves in those really tough moments.
And then you kind of catch yourself and come back and say, okay, I need to reapproach it. I need to come back again with the compassion that I felt before. Yeah, and I thought that Neelix's journey in this was, well, like you just said, it was almost like role modeling that behavior. Like, here's how you come to somebody who is vulnerable and unaware, and all you can do is just be there and provide for them what you can.
Just reassure.
Yeah. It was really...
I did think it was a little interesting. So there's a TOS episode, The Changeling, where the same situation happens with Uhura.
Yeah.
But I feel like she didn't get quite the same attention for losing her memory.
Oh my God, you're right.
It was the B plot that was just kind of like there.
Yeah.
Oh, she's forgotten everything, she'll be fine. And you see Nurse Chapel like giving her that attention and guidance.
You're right.
Back to who she is.
Oh my God, that's the perfect parallel here. Yeah. I just remember from that episode, they just kind of get to the end. It's like, oh, okay, well, she's got her language back, so
she'll be fine in 2 weeks. And I was like, what? Yeah. She just lost everything.
Right. Wow. Well, and that kind of makes me wonder about this story, which is who is Tuvok going forward? Because I still wonder if he and Neelix remember their experience of being Tuviks. Like, do they ever reminisce about that?
And if they do, they just do it to themselves because none of us ever see it.
Yeah. But if you've been through this profound thing now where Tuvok has the tiniest glimmer of a sense of humor at the end of this, maybe he remembers how to make a good dessert. Does that, does that stick in any way?
Yeah.
And I would love it if Voyager was a show that was written with that kind of care. Not to say the writers didn't care, but the kind of attention toward long arcs where you could go like, okay.
Yeah, just to kind of touch in it, maybe next season. Like, oh, he's made some small dessert for something. You're like, oh, that's from when he was, memory loss.
Like from this moment on, Tuvok is a little bit of a different guy. I do want to sort of compare it back to Tuvix again, because I feel like, okay, we can't relitigate it, but Tuvix is that expression of Star Trek idic incarnate. Like, here are the two disparate halves, and then they come together to be this new thing that is arguably more than the sum of those parts. Okay. But he's gone because Janeway murdered him. But now we get to play with this other thing, which Well, it mostly puts the emotional weight on Neelix. Like, he's the one who really has to go through the emotional journey here. He loves this version of Tuvok. He really does. But he also loves the previous version of Tuvok. And he on some level, he gets the Vulcan stoicism. Like, he really, you know. All right. If we were to say, you and I may have our own opinions if Janeway made the right decision in Tuvix. Is this the right decision here
for this episode?
Yeah.
I would still say yes. I think that Neelix understands Tuvok enough by now, after 6 seasons, to know that he would still want to be the man that he's already grown into. Sure, he's having fun, he's loving life, but that's not really who he is.
Yeah. Well, and that, I think, leads right back to Neelix's question, his riddle, right? When is a Vulcan no longer a Vulcan?
Yeah.
And I love Seven of Nine's very black and white answers. Like, well, obviously, it's when you change the genetic code. So it's like, no. Wait.
You're so technical.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but this is something else because, okay, for anybody who has some sort of profound change, some sort of profound memory loss or whatever, are they still the same person? Because I would pose that it is our memories that make us who we are. You know,
Sure.
So you can very easily ask this, is Tuvok still Tuvok at this point? Is he a better Tuvok than before? Well, if you listen to Seven, potentially. He is potentially better because Seven has the experience now of growing into something new. Not the human that she was before, not the Borg that she was before, but through guidance,
True.
something entirely new. Or are we making the argument maybe here that Tuvok is no longer Tuvok until he provides some utility for the rest of the crew? Because part of the argument here is, well, the ship needs a tactical officer. We need the logical guy.
We've got an open position here.
Yeah. So it's not just memory, but it's also like everybody else's reaction to him. Oh, no. This is the Tuvok that we need, not that Tuvok.
Well, even so, even the crew like that we saw, even with just Harry, like no one really reacted like positively or negatively. They all just kind of like stood back and was like, I don't know what's happening.
Right.
You saw them like maybe enjoying his desserts or whatever, but it was really only Neelix interacting with Tuvok in this episode. Yeah. Everyone else was just kind of like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. and honestly, I'm here for more of it. I think that Neelix Tuvok interaction, they could have made this a two-parter and I would have been happy with that.
Was this episode riddled with insights, or did it end without a punchline? Let's see what our hosts thought.
All right, riddle me this. What do we do when we get to the end of an episode of Mission Log? Well, we do the same thing every week. We ask ourselves if the episode holds up, and then we ask ourselves what we learned at the end of analyzing an episode like this one, Riddles. So, Nick, the first question, does the episode hold up? Well, that is purposely vague because there might be things that you love. There might be things that you just can't get past. There might be things that undermine your enjoyment of the episode or things that elevate an otherwise maybe mediocre show to high esteem in your eyes. So I present you with that vaguely worded question. Does Riddles hold up?
I would say as a relatable episode, it does really hold up, especially if, you know, so many people would be able to reflect on, you know, the signs of like an aging parent or grandparent or friend. So it really, I think, reiterates the message of like just remembering in the moment, have some kindness, accept, adapt. So yeah, I think it does really hold up. It's very almost fun-loving, but also some serious notes as well.
Yeah. I definitely agree. You know, it's interesting to look at shows on an individual level and then look at them across a season or across a series and where they fit. And maybe you could take this one and say, well, it's not really consequential in the way that some other episodes of Voyager are about the journey in the Delta Quadrant. But this is it is a slice, and it is this character piece between Tuvok and Neelix. See also Tuvix. but in this one, we get our primary actors in those roles rather than a fabulously talented guest star. And it's so lovely to watch them working together that it's hard for me to find anything negative to say about it. I think the only thing that you could say is just like, well, at the end of the day, if it has no bearing on the character going forward, or if it has no bearing on getting home, which is Voyager's mission, all right.
Well, you could say it kind of does.
Yeah.
They'd have no tactical officer.
Well, that's true. They need that guy. They do
It might hinder
absolutely.
them,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't trust Harry to fire the photon torpedoes the way I do Tuvok, But I feel like, this is the kind of episode that reminds me that we don't get enough of Tuvok overall. And I feel like Tim is just one of the best actors on this show, not just as an actor with range, but as an actor who inhabits this role so perfectly.
Yeah.
So, I feel like he and Jerry as Seven of Nine and Bob as the Doctor, I think those three are the ones who just absolutely, from day one, 100% inhabit that character. It's no slight against the others at all.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the other characters are written up and down where you kind of go like, well, like, do I really believe that character would do that?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. but I feel like these three are just so good, and we don't get enough of Tuvok to continue to explore that. In the past, if you have watched all of Voyager, it's easy sometimes to discount Neelix. He's just kind of the comic relief, or he's that annoying character on the ship. But if you kind of stop for a moment, he has some of the most heartfelt and tragic storylines of anybody in this crew. And when you get to plumb those depths here, it's not as deep maybe as losing his family. It's not as deep as losing his faith. It's not that, but just this intimate personal connection. Like, what do I get out of this change, and what do I want for my friend, and how does that affect me?
Yeah.
Like, there's a very personal thing going on here. So, you got two MVPs in this episode. And I just love seeing moments where you take a character like Tuvok and you get to stretch him again and let the actor stretch again. And that's what they did here. So I think it holds up beautifully. And it's just very emotional. And that kind of brings me to morals, meanings, messages. What did we learn? And, the sci-fi conceit here is not relatable because it is a sci-fi conceit. But what is relatable is the human real-world story of this. And we talked about it in the context of Tuvok being a child, but Tuvok also being an adult who is going through a serious change and losing memory, and then how are other people affected around him, and the kind of compassion and the kind of love that he has to be shown, even without knowing, like, well, is this person going to get better or not? Well, at that point, that question is irrelevant. It's just a matter of showing him how much we care, being present, showing him the compassion and love that he needs. And there's this interesting, we mentioned some of our favorite lines in the episode. Neelix saying, "I was trying to mold you into something you aren't." And that's like this moment.
It's pretty strong.
What's that?
It's pretty strong.
Yeah.
He realizes, like, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah. And that, I think, is sort of, piggybacked on Seven of Nine saying, well, it wasn't about me being pushed into something that somebody thinks I should be. It was about finding this other thing that I had the potential to be.
Yeah.
Now, maybe some of that gets undermined because, well, Tuvok just goes back to being Tuvok. Like, we tech the tech, we fix the problem, we resolve it, and going forward, he's just back to the same old Tuvok.
He's just normal.
He's just normal, never to be mentioned again, Didn't
happen.
Right. But if there's something along the way here, we talked in the last segment about the two halves here. This episode is a companion piece to Tuvix in this respect, and I love how Tuvok, Tuvok and Neelix are stronger together. Like, they were stronger together literally as Tuvix, but they're stronger together here as people who are helping each other. Neelix literally helping Tuvok in the sense of finding who he is, and Tuvok, in a way, helping Neelix figure out his own friendship to Tuvok and figure out, like, well, am I going too far here? Am I doing enough? All of that was also helpful for Neelix's arc as well. I love how they both do some soul searching, but they do it in their own ways, So maybe there's not a bonk bonk on the head, you see Timmy moment here, but as an episode that explores a bit of human experience and human emotion through alien characters, it's lovely. Nick, what did you learn?
Well, I just wanted to point out real fast, wasn't Neelix, when he came on board Voyager for the first time, was Tuvok the first person he interacted with?
Oh, my.
And that's how he started saying, like, Mr. Vulcan.
Oh, I think you're right. So
I think I'm wondering if, like, maybe if, like, that was the first person he ever saw on the ship, maybe he feels like a stronger connection, and he's, like, trying to still learn the limitations he has within that friendship.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why he shows so much care now, because that's the first person he ever interacted with here.
That's a good point. Yeah, he kind of, like, just bonded with this guy. Yeah.
Tuvok may have not wanted that bond, but Neelix sure did.
Right. Well, and I think you need a character like that as a foil to a Vulcan. So look,
sure.
Honestly, it's the McCoy-Spock dynamic.
Yeah,
it really,
that's the best.
It really is, because as much as McCoy irritates Spock, there is a bond there. There is a deep friendship, and they get to toy with that. Go ahead.
The moral meaning or message. I thought it was more of, like, adapting to or accepting the circumstances of what you're being put through. Like, he has to adapt or accept who he's become now. Neelix has to accept and adapt to the friendship he's about to lose by Tuvok returning back to normal. So that's kind of the message I took away from it.
I like that a lot. Yeah, they got to adapt to survive. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of wonder, though, like, in my head, I have this version of Tuvix where they just let that character stay for like 9 or 10 months, and then we come back and then figure out what we're going to do. And I wonder if they could have done that with this episode. Like, just keep the happy, fun-loving, dessert-making Tuvok for another, 5 or 6 months, and then decide what we're going to do.
Just see what happens. Yeah.
Guess what? Well, we adapted too much. We adapted so much that we love this new guy. And
we don't want to lose him.
All right, Nick. Well, thank you very much. Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog for early access to shows and the Mission Log Discord. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and for more Star Trek news and discussion, visit trekmovie.com.
On the next Mission Log, Dragon's Teeth.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com. Special thanks to consulting producers, Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Rand Hurl, Tom Kozak, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Shadable, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi. How did we get out of this episode without a Vulcan dessert cookbook? Or at least a blog that includes a 12-year meditation on logic before you ever get anywhere near a recipe. End transmission.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.